So after 1.5 years since I started to upload videos to this channel, I realized that um, progress is indeed not linear. Progress is never linear. I expected of me to to develop myself like in obvious, clear stages, and each stage to appear as um, an objective milestone somehow that I can validate for myself and should be obvious to everyone around me. And that's for sure not the case. Because, for example, I just realized today that I I found my whole life a huge payoff in being a victim of my circumstances, despite everything that I've said for the last 1.5 years on this channel about being the author of your own life and create a life by design, and deciding upfront that everything happens for you and not to you, and that this universe is a friendly universe, it's not a hostile universe, and you create your own reality, and all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, I had to realize and be completely aware of the fact that I have this predisposition to feeling sorry for myself, um, to put myself in situations where I need to be saved, where I make it very hard on me and force people around me, especially those who care about me and who love me, and they cannot see me suffer. I force them to come and rescue me, right? Instead of me being the bigger man and owning my my path, right? Which doesn't have to imply that much suffering anyway. But I make it hard for myself, on myself, so that I force resolution from the outside, so that people cannot stand not helping me and not doing anything, right? So I'm somehow craving this kind of attention, right? I get something, I get a payoff out of self-pity and out of feeling bad about myself. And I make everyone around me miserable in the desperate need of having to be rescued, right? It's such an interesting thing that it takes years and years and years of deep introspection, of genuine curiosity about the patterns that we have, to realize, or like truthfully and with complete honesty, that this is happening. And the progress is never linear, right? Progress is never linear. The moment you believe that you now know, you will be tested against that, and you will be proven often wrong. Or even if you're not proven wrong, you will face a challenge that will humble you, will make you reconsider the strong conviction that you had around something, right? That you thought you overcame. So I take the opportunity, in case my wife watches this, which quite likely she won't, because she has better things to do, clearly. But if she watches this, this is my way to show her infinite appreciation and tell her I love her immensely. And I want to thank her for her amazingness, for bearing with me, for trusting me, for being with me, near me, alongside me when I didn't believe in me, and when I started to believe in me, and then when I doubted myself again, and so on. It's amazing if you have such a person in your life. I wish you come to a similar realization at some point, in case you don't honor that person, and you don't make your best to become your best self for that person, or for this kind of people around you, because it's such an unfair thing to have someone who trusts you and loves you unconditionally, and to have them be the ones who suffer most whenever you have a problem, right? It's almost shameful to realize this. I mean, I'm 37, right? Almost 38. And at this age, it's much more natural for me to make her life hard when when I'm confronted with hardship, because ultimately I trust, I guess I trust her ability to pull me out of hardship more than I trust myself to do it. And this attitude, this negative attitude, comes also with the implicit frustration, I guess, about myself, that I cannot do it actually, and I have to appeal to this kind of shortcuts and force her, in my case, to be the bigger man. um, yeah, it's a bit sad, but at the same time, I can only be grateful for having this realization. And I might get confused again at some point. I might get lost again. I might forget for brief moments that this is really happening. But when you are conditioned to operate like this for 30 years, because there's always someone there to help you, to relieve the tension, to remove the friction whenever you hit hard, which was my case, right? And that person was my mother. And I would say my family in general. Whenever I hit hard, whenever I was confronted with friction, with frustration in the world, right? Things that I could not do easily, I would then just get pissed off, and I would cry for help, right? I would say, and then people would come along and try to help me, and save me and rescue me and whatever. And I was like, okay, amazing. Now I'm a father, and I try to be very careful with this, and try to find a way to offer them unconditional love and support, while creating conditions for them to face discomfort um, by themselves, and find resolution by themselves, for themselves, without me coming to the rescue for them. And that starts with letting them get frustrated when tying their shoelaces, or putting their shoes, or I don't know, tying a knot, or on whatever, anything, right, which builds their trust in themselves, that they can do hard things. I think it all comes down to that. I think life will test us against our resolve. Will test our resolve. Will put us in front of challenges, and if we are not, if we don't build the muscle of knowing deep down that we can confront challenges and get out of them, through them, safe and more confident, ultimately more resilient. This is how we build resilience, right? As human beings, we go through hardship, and then we know we can do this kind of hard things. The next time when it comes, the next time when something hard comes, we can do it. But it's best to start as soon as possible, right? You should not wait for a big thing to hit you. Like it was for me, my case was my biggest personal crisis with my mother getting sick, and luckily having my wife around me to provide that kind of unconditional love and support, so I can work on myself to bear with the situation. But that was by far the biggest challenge and the most difficult thing I had to cope with and go through until the age of 32, right? So I didn't have any kind of muscle build around that. I was forced to go through it, and luckily that I had my wife to support me. But then I continued to rely on her even after my mother passed away, and I learned a lot about myself. This pattern stayed with me. My wife now became somehow my shortcut to escape hardship still. So I didn't take what I learned from going through hardship myself and implement it in my own life and me become the pillar for her. I continued to resolve my difficulties and my hardship by offloading the hardship to her for resolution, because it's a safer bet, right? I am lucky for having everything around me as it is, all this unconditional love and support and amazing kids and friends and everything. But I want this to be also a message of caution, because we cannot take this for granted. If you happen to have an amazing support group around you, don't take it lightly, and don't take it for granted. Don't believe that that you deserve it just because you have it, and then it's normal and you just take from it. No, just start to give back to it. Give back. Be that person for them also. Be that kind of resilient person for those around you as well, because they will need it also at some point. And it's not fair to not make it always about you and your problems when they will have a problem, because this is what's happening with me. When I have a problem, I try to offload it, because I know that I have someone near me who can take that and alleviate the tension that I'm feeling, right? So I don't have to go through it alone. The problem is that if you make that person this kind of foundation for your whole existence, in a way, you implicitly create a state of dependency. in a bad way, because when that person is vulnerable and needs help, you don't see a person who can benefit from your support. You see your foundation being shaken and potentially weakened. So if she needs help, then it means that my foundation is not strong, so I will then have a problem. But it's such an egoistic point of view and such an egoistic way of looking at things. Build resilience. Try to own everything that happens to you in life. Good decisions, bad decisions, that's not very relevant as long as you own the outcomes. Because when you take a decision in life, you never know if what I want to say is that it's more important to know that anything that happens can be a good lesson for you if you are open to learn. Because whenever you take a decision, you always take it believing that is the best for you at that point, right? You typically don't take decisions, you don't do things to hurt yourself. Even if it looks like you want to hurt yourself, you do it because there is a payoff. You do it because you want to get something out of it for yourself, right? So there is no good or bad decision necessarily, as long as you make something out of what happens after you take a decision. And this is an important lesson for me. And I trust that you take also from this that your journey is your journey, and you might have supporting cast around you. You might have people who are there for you no matter what, but you should never take anyone for granted. You should own your journey. You should do the best you can to learn out of everything and not put all your burden on the shoulders of those who are there for you unconditionally. It's not fair. And it's a lack of respect ultimately. And no matter if you say, okay, I love them and so on, which of course is the case, you love them. But what do you do when they need you most? How do you behave then? How strong of a person are you when they are in need? This is a very hard lesson for me to learn. A very hard lesson, but maybe it's the most important lesson. And if I were you, I would have an obvious question now. Okay, but then who will replace that person? In my case, who will replace my wife for this kind of load bearing, right? For this kind of support and like sharing somehow the burden with me if I don't take it on her anymore. Who should do that, or what should I do about it? And for me, the most natural and immediate answer is God, of course. Of course, God. Because God is with me all the time. God knows everything about me all the time. How much I'm struggling, why I'm struggling, what's my attitude with the struggle, what's my intent behind an action, what's the result of a decision, how do I approach that result, do I learn from it or do I resist it, do I own the gift of the lesson that I can have from any kind of outcome in my life? Or do I reject it? And this kind of knowingness that God is with me all the time gives me the means to be there for people that I care most about in my life without having to create this negative dependency on them, without forcing them to be there for me so I can feel good and be okay with myself. I think if you have God and you allow God to be there with you, for you all the time, you then become available for others because you have someone who takes care of your problems in a way, right? It's not something that you have to deal with them like in a burdening way. You don't have to offload and force someone else to bury the load, to bear the load with you and carry, the suffering and so on. You just find resources and energy knowing that you are never alone in the end. You are never alone. And you trust God to help you with anything. And this is what faith is, right? Just know that it will be okay and know that everything happens for you. And this kind of framing, this kind of like having God next to you all the time is the right framing that you need, is the right contextualization of the hardship. This is what gives you the means to contextualize hardship in a right way, because you take obstacles as gifts. You realize that everything happens for you because it could not happen otherwise, right? So then there is no struggle, there's no problem. I hope this video makes you think about people next to you that you tend to take for granted in your life, and honor them and tell them you love them. And even more than that, better than just telling them, just show them. Show them that um, you honor the relationship and you want to grow for them. And you are there for them when they need it, not only the other way around.